the men in my life have always said, we put everything we had into our career. And that gave us $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million a year of income. You have not put everything into your career. You put everything into your family and your career.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. We're so excited and glad that you've tuned in, that you've turned on your YouTube. If you're watching via YouTube, hey everybody, welcome. And if you're listening via iTunes and Spotify, welcome. Hey, yesterday was my birthday and I'm going to do this once a year. For my birthday present, would you please, if the Jeff Heilman Project has given you any kind of benefit at all, if you've been enjoying any of our episodes and are not yet subscribed on YouTube, could you please do me a birthday favor and go on to YouTube and like, subscribe, click the little ringy bell if you would. It would be the greatest birthday present for me to be able to see that we have any new subscribers. We cherish and pray for and love on each and every one of you and are thinking about you. So anyways, thank you for that.
Thank you for liking and subscribing.
Birthday gift
Happy
of subscriptions. I won't ask again until next year. No, I can't promise that, but at least I'm going to make it a point.
You know what to do.
At least I'm going to make it a point on my birthday to shamelessly ask for you to like and subscribe to the Jeff Heilman Project on YouTube. But it's been an encouraging week. We've been moving on from out of my 46th year into my 47th year. Today, we're going to continue last episode's conversation on big decisions and small decisions, and preferably not letting those small decisions trip us up or maybe distract us from the power of those big decisions. But anyhow, you had a birthday? I had a birthday. I was doing the calendar, and between Marcella's birthday, happy birthday, Marcella. Grandpa Dan's birthday, happy birthday, Grandpa Dan.
Happy birthday, Grandpa Dan.
Pastor Adam's birthday, which is the 19th. Happy birthday, Pastor Adam. And my birthday, there's a lot of birthdays in January. There's a lot of birthdays in December. Shout out to all you January, December babies. Madeline as well. So it's been a pretty full, I feel like as we come around that bend towards October, there's like this major landslide between, Halloween and trunk or treat, and then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year, and then birthday. It's like, woo! And then we kind of come back up and start going back up that roller coaster until the next birthday, which is Washington in April. So
that's right.
Anyways, it's been a very quick ride the last few months. How's your week gone so far?
Good. Yeah, I got traveling to Canada in 2 weeks for a trip.
Are you traveling to Canada A?
I'm traveling to Canada A, yeah. I'm going to go to French-speaking Montreal. I've never been to Montreal before. I've been to Canada before, but not the French-speaking part of Quebec. And I was going and looking at it, I think it's early 1700s, when French-occupied Quebec was ceded to England, which then became Canada. So it's under the crown. And then you build the border. The border didn't exist back in the 1700s because the U.S. didn't exist. But that area of the world is 86% of the people in the city of Montreal speak French. I think that's amazing. So,
oui.
You just got back from France.
Oui.
And the architecture, the Beaux-Arts architecture.
Well, I thought it was.
Late 1800s, early 1900s,
thought it was fascinating
fantastic.
That they so often in history they have actually surrendered in order to protect the buildings of their city. They would not
so
fight.
They don't get burned
because
to the ground.
because they wanted to protect those
their culture.
pre-war, those Renaissance buildings that are still intact today because of their desire to preserve their history and their historical artifacts. Speaking of artifacts, I do think that going back to our topic and speaking on our topic of the big decisions, in my opinion, if you look at your life and you look at your life plan for your entire life from beginning to end, there will be artifacts. The big decisions are like our staying artifact. They're more like our columns that hold up our foundation and hold up our buildings that we're building. And each column could represent the big decisions of our lives. And we covered in the last episode the column of a life partner, the column of career, faith, all of the major big decisions. And we didn't get to quite finish the big decisions that you had listed on your list. And, I really my intention for last week's episode was to really just hopefully encourage anybody who's listening that little small decisions we can make dumb small decisions and still be okay. Like there are some small decisions and they might feel really big in the moment, but over the course of time, those decisions that might have been made under duress or under stress it will work itself out. They will work themselves out because you've stuck strong in your big decisions, because the big decisions, the pillars that you've placed were good. The pillars that you've placed are substantial and built on a solid rock.
If we just review, I think last week we talked about marriage. Who you decide to get married to is a major decision. Just getting married, just having a life partner and saying, legally, financially, morally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, we're going to be connected to another human being. That's a huge decision. You kind of give up rights to do whatever you want, go wherever you want, and you assume responsibilities, and the other person gives up rights and they assume responsibilities. But that the connection between the two is that you're making a trade-off. It's not just a decision to, one day you're going to get married. It's actually you're trading your life as a single person for life as a married person. And I think it's a major decision because you're trading a lot, but you're also getting a lot from it. And the big decisions tend to be the ones that really, I think they make your life as the richest. Marriage, we talked about last time.
Well, and we want to also make sure that we are recognizing what a big decision is, because you don't want to treat a big decision like a small one.
Exactly right.
You don't want to be definitely there's some big decisions, major decisions that we make that we do not want to flippantly treat like that they don't matter. Because when I think of what represents a big decision or the column in our lives does it have what's the size of the ripple effect that decision will make? Does it make does being married and having children create a ripple effect? And the answer is absolutely it does. Do some other minor decisions, like whether I eat an extra piece of chocolate cake, is that going to make a major ripple? No, but
your decision to lose weight before you went to Paris was a major decision. That gets into, like, if you look at what are the big decisions and make sure you give them the weight that they deserve. Marriage is a big one. Babies is a big one. We want to have kids. People ask us, did we have 7 kids by accident? I'm like, how could you possibly have 7 kids by accident? Like,
my answer is always one at a time. We had them one at a time, at a time. How do you do it? One at a time. That's how we do it.
The little decisions that led up to the career that I have, and now as a very small public figure, right, through this podcast and through the newsletter and the consulting work or sales or technology, your work in the ministry, volunteering, and then potentially military career as a chaplain as you're looking at going into your final years of school to do that. That was very carefully chosen. We chose to be in technology because technology was where you get the leverage for the work that you're doing, and you can actually make an impact and get paid enough to have a big family with. So that was totally on purpose. Career's a big decision. Spiritual life, and I think we covered this a little bit last time, but whatever your spiritual life is, do that. If you're a Christian, be a Christian. If you're a Muslim, be a Muslim. Do what Muslims do. Right? Follow the code of ethics that you say that you subscribe to. And I think what you'll get as the benefit of that is that you'll have parity between who you say you are as a person and who you actually are, what you say you do and what you do. Another one is where you live. You and I talk a little bit. We get this question a lot. California's going through a lot of changes right now. There's obviously some political upheaval, I guess you could say. But a lot of our friends are picking up, leaving the state. Hey, I'm tired of paying the gas prices. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. On both sides of the aisle. But we lived in California for the last 20 years. having been raised here and moving away and then coming back, tell the listeners a little about why we lived where we live here, particularly Santa Clara Valley, Silicon Valley,
Well,
San Jose, Willow Glen, et cetera.
I think that it's important to address as we're making these big decisions and as we're establishing and deciding what these big decisions are, to recognize that if you're going to make a big decision, there's a considerable amount of discomfort that can happen if you're not living in alignment with that big decision. And what I like, here's a perfect example, is why we live. One of the major reasons why we live in the Silicon Valley in the Bay Area is because you have all had a career or made a career, most of our marriage, out of technology sales and just technology and in corporate America, but centered through a technological aspect. And the Silicon Valley is the area with the greatest proximity to corporations and companies and startups that deal with technology. We tried living in San Diego, and the environment that we were in was more pharmaceutical and healthcare and military in San Diego. When you lived in Texas, that's a whole different ball game. At least it was at the time. So for us, if we were going to make a major decision, a big decision to be in technology, then we continued to keep hitting and coming against blockers and walls when we didn't live in the Silicon Valley and in proximity to other things. And so
especially when I didn't have a network set up in the beginning. I do now. Now we could live in Kansas City or New York. It wouldn't be a problem.
Especially now with remote working being so readily available too.
Yeah.
So a big part of why we live here, even though we tried living other places, was because our big decision to be in technology and to be in the corporate sphere of technology caused us to need to get in line and do something relatively scary, like, are we going to be able to find affordable housing? Are we going to be able to raise our children? Am I going to be able to stay home and still take care of the kids? We had to get in line with the major decision, which was to remain in technology and in sales in our career, in your career. And because we took the leap of faith and we did it, then all the little small decisions that came together, like we talked about on the last episode with the scales balanced in the favor of the faith of to go out and to do it. And so I think it's the same when it comes to if you're going to make a big decision if you've ever read, maybe the ladies listening, there's a book called French Women Don't Get Fat. It's a really great book.
Yeah.
And what she talks about is one of the things she talks about is in your journey of weight loss, if you're going to make a big decision to get healthy and to lose weight, it might require you taking an alternative way home where you don't pass the bakery on the way home, or you don't go through your habit of, doing that midday McDonald's run on your way home, because if you have to remove yourself from the little temptations along the way in order to be in line with your major decision, then your odds of success are going to go like way, way up. So there's some tactical tricks that we can do on the way to our major decision that can help us make those successful small decisions along the way. And for us living here, one of those was moving into this valley and taking the leap of faith in order to be here.
That's why we came here in the first place in 2003. But as we got older, there's another reason why we stayed, particularly in the South Bay in San Jose, Willow Glen area. And it had to do very much with a combination of family and career. Now, in Silicon Valley, as long as you're living within, say, 45 minutes of the water on either side of the bay, you can get a job 2 seconds. I mean, it's tens upon tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of people that work in technology, and they're all driving distance from these offices all over on both sides of the bay. As you move out to Tracy or south like Salinas or north up past Marin County, then it starts to get a little harder to get in if you needed to get to the office. Now with remote work, that's changed significantly. 20 years ago, we didn't know that obviously that would happen. But the reason we live in South Bay is because we're blending a need to live in close proximity to high technology innovation and the need for you to have access to your network and community of your family while you did a very difficult emotional and spiritual job of birthing and nursing and raising 7 children.
I would say that is I think that I would hope that anybody listening has chosen, to do what they're doing on a day-to-day basis based on more than one major decision. So we have a lot of major decisions.
That's right.
It was a major decision to have a big family. It was a major decision to have a family. It's a major decision to get married. That's 2. It was a major decision to live in the Silicon Valley. That's 3. And it was a major decision that I was unwilling to go without having our kids grow up with the accessibility to their great-grandparents, my grandparents, because when I looked around at the entire family,
That's
and
right.
we have a very close family, we try at least to be pretty close. My grandparents were the only ones who hadn't moved in 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. It was very important for me to make sure that as I was raising young, impressionable children, that they could be in proximity to that generation and be able to learn about manners and being a gentleman and being a lady and how to, the types of movies and that generation was so important for me to, and it just happened to be that they lived here in the Valley, which actually partnered really well with your career, with the career choice and the fact that the two worked together. Because if they would have lived in, if they would have lived in
Kansas
City, I would be in Kansas
I'd have been
City.
a Chiefs fan right
We'd
now.
be in
Good
Kansas
job
City
getting
right
through
now.
the next round of the playoffs, by the way.
So that's another major decision. So we're going to build our houses on several pillars. The roof of our buildings throughout our entire life is going to be supported by the major decisions that we make. And the small decisions are kind of like the furniture that comes in and goes out. Like you're not going to, a refrigerator's only going to last so many years and then that's going to come out. That's going to come in, it's going to come out. The foundation, the bones of the house, the interior walls, the roof, everything. Those are our major decisions. And we're going to make a lot of major decisions in our life, but not nearly as many as the small decisions. But we're hoping that those major decisions that are made are solid, they're strengthened, they have the odds of successes in their favor. One of the major decisions, Jeff, I think in what you've done with your career is that you do have a pretty niche, even though you haven't necessarily done one job for, over 40 years. There are certain niches, like, you won't do retail sales, or, you won't do, you're much more, what's one of them? I think you've said no to opportunities in like government, like selling government.
Yeah, I've taken jobs selling to state government, federal government, defense stuff, but I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in those things. I'm interested in commerce.
You're not interested.
I'm interested in creating
in hardware. You're much more interested in software and virtual and SaaS products and
just
stuff
personally.
like that.
And I have friends that have done really, really. I've got a friend that runs $1 billion business selling to the federal government for a large technology manufacturer that you guys would know. If I gave you the name of the manufacturer, you would know it in 2 seconds. And he does amazingly well in that role. He was in the military for a long time. Loves it. He's great at it. And of all my friends, I would say he's probably the most advanced in years with the least amount of experience in tech, who has had the fastest growth in his career. We're all sitting there scratching our heads.
Sounds like he's really interested in it.
Yeah, he's done amazingly well in it, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time.
And I think that's what makes your major decision, your big decisions successful. Is part of what makes you a success is knowing when to say no, knowing what projects that you're not going to, that you're not going to put your time and your energy into, and knowing the ones that are going to add and strengthen those interior walls of your house that you're building.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is Jessica. I'm so excited to offer to you this new service and this ability that you have to text in your questions, comments. Maybe you have some situations that you'd love for Jeff and Jessica to try to tackle along with you. You can text us now at 203-646-1472. Your phone carrier may have standard rates that apply, it being a text, but this is a free service from us to you in which we would like to participate with you in an ongoing conversation about how we can help and what we can possibly do for you. Looking forward to hearing from you soon.
And if you look at one of the other big things to do with as far as big decisions is, what are we going to do with the money that we make? Mm-hmm. You and I have always believed that we would be very successful financially, and that whatever we have to do to get to that point, it's fine to just keep the wolves away. Mm-hmm. Keep the wolves away for another couple of years. Now, sometimes that's been keep the wolves away for 10 years. The government that wants taxes, the credit cards that want minimum payments on credit cards, the car payments, debt, things that your kids need. Our kids want a lot of stuff, right? They're kids, they're human beings, and we have a lot of them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting stuff. I've had friends say to me, I've had friends who've done exceptionally well. And I've said, here's our situation, here's your situation. And he was like, the people, each of these he's that have been in my life, that have been mentors to me. Not to say I couldn't be mentored by a woman, but I just don't have any woman mentors except for you, I think. The men in my life have always said, we put everything we had into our career. And that gave us $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million a year of income. You have not put everything into your career. You put everything into your family and your career together. And that's taken a little bit longer, I think, for us to hit the higher income earning. I have a lot of friends that did really well in their 20s and 30s, and it took us until we were mid-30s.
Well, Marcia and I were talking about last time or 2 times ago that we got together, talking about dreaming. And I think she was listening to that episode that I talked about. Hey, Marcia, that I talked about going and looking at open houses again, going and getting back into the posture of dreaming again. Because the way that I look at it is, hey, we hear crazy stories every day about somebody winning the lottery out of nowhere or somebody inheriting a bunch of money out of nowhere. And my question is, what would other than, have you even sat and thought about what you would do with the money if the money came in? Do you have a list somewhere of the businesses that you would fund, or the orphanages, or the philanthropic causes, or the buildings you would build, or the homes you would buy? Like, where's your someday maybe list? What's your dream list? Is it written down somewhere on paper? Because unless, if you have a windfall and you find yourself waking up one day and having inherited a amount of money or a tremendous amount of money, what would you do with it? Because if you don't know what you would do with it, number one, it probably isn't going to become attracted to you, or two, when you got it, it would be gone before you even knew you had it.
You got to know what you're going to do with it.
So having a clear picture on what to do with the finances, what to do with the money, being able to sit down and draw out, like I have a dream to open up a cafe. And in that dream of that cafe, I know exactly the colors that I've got it from in my mind and on paper, what it's going to look like. What are the chairs going to look like? I'm ready for the investors to come up to me one day and say, hey, I'm looking for a place to invest $5 million because if I don't invest it, I'm going to have to pay taxes on it. And I don't want to do that. Do you know of anybody who is needing money for a business? And I'll be able to go, hey, yep, I do. As a matter of fact, I've got the whole plan and I've got the presentation and I'm ready to go. Here's my specs, And so the question is, are you ready? And it might be a stretch, and it might even be a painful stretch. Like we were talking about earlier, it is a painful stretch if you're not, if you've made a major decision to be in technology, but you're living out in rural Indiana. It's going to be painful.
We were living in Escondido when
Yeah, it's going to be painful
First
until you
impact
make
of the valley.
that decision to take that first step in line with the major decision that you make. If you have a major decision to go back to college to get your degree, to get an MBA, it's going to be pretty uncomfortable until you actually go and, fill out that application and begin the process of getting that degree. Until that day, we don't get biblical here very often, but there is a scripture that says the calling of the Lord is without repentance. And basically what that just means is that if there's something that you're called to do, or you feel like, man, you just can't go to sleep at night until you get that thing that you've been impressed upon to do, it's going to just gnaw at you until you get it done, or it's going to gnaw at you until you get that process started. So that's what we're trying to achieve through this conversation today on this episode, is to encourage you to look into whatever that thing is, that major decision, that big decision. We're here to support you and encourage you as you continue to strive for those.
Yeah, and let's talk about a couple more big decisions in life. Who your friends are going to be. We're not antisocial people. We're social. We hang out with people. We go to church. We go to
the
clubs.
antisocial social club.
Yeah, the antisocial social club. No, we're social, but I would say that we're pretty careful with who we spend our private time with. I'd rather spend time with my family really than anybody, and that's not a dig against any people. It's just you guys are my favorite, and when I'm working, I'm with people all the time. You're with people all the time working, and we're not better or worse than anybody else. Nobody's better or worse than we are, but if we're working, if we're in a leadership position, it's a lot of work. It can be exhausting holding the line of belief and knowing that something can be done, and having the self-discipline and having people skills to be kind when people are mean, or be polite when people are just really having a bad day, and to let everybody else off the hook, even though
if they say that your dog will start looking like you after a while, then you're your friends
I'm doing
are
pretty good with Vinny.
who your friends are definitely going to rub off, and that's not a new concept. I think even since we were little, our parents would say, "Be careful of your association." Who you spend your time
it's like
with.
When you're a parent, you don't want your kid hanging out with maybe Johnny, because little Johnny is up to no good, or he's got trouble going on at home. We know enough about that, but then why? Since when did we become exempt from that as an adult? It's like, no, you have grown up, and now you've got Johnny maybe living next door to you, and you need to table those discussions, because we're all human beings. We need those types of relationships. We've just tried to steer those relationships toward people who are positive and encouraging, and who reciprocate, because we put a lot of effort out into building those types of relationships. Next one I would say on the list for me is what you read. What you read, or whether you read or not, or the types of things that you put into your head. I'm reading, I've got a couple books going right now. I'm reading Think and Grow Rich again for, the 11th time. And then Titan by Chernow, the John D. Rockefeller biography. And then I've got another one ordered. Andrew just ordered a book for you this week. What book did we get for you this week?
The Magic of Thinking Big.
A good one.
By Dr. David Schwartz, which was February 1995, was the first positive mental attitude I ever read. Thanks to Christopher for getting me a copy of that. So I think the books that you read...
You're also reading the Schwarzenegger book.
Oh, and Schwarzenegger Be Useful. Gosh, so good. He does such a good job. If you guys like audiobooks and you like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that one is really, really exceptional. And through, you and I have been reading positive mental attitude books for a long time. For me, since February of 1995. I didn't really like to read in the beginning, and then now I really enjoy it, and I've gotten into a habit. It's like a Zen moment that's quiet. But that's been coming up on 30 years that we have made a habit of reading.
We made a
those types of books.
decision, a major decision, that we would not, initially in the beginning of my adult life, I made the major decision to not read fiction books, because I read a lot of fiction before I became an adult. And then once I became a wife and a mom, it was like, ugh, I need some skills. And so I started reading books that were going to teach me nonfiction books. But then after a while, I did begin to incorporate, there's some need for being able to understand, society and those types of things, and be able to escape a little bit through the book and the imaginatory details. But I would say definitely we're probably at a 1-to-20 ratio based on fiction to nonfiction. And that's a major decision, because I just, it's entertainment. It's always, even a book, even if it's a book and it's nonfiction, it's entertainment, just like sitting down and watching television or reading a, gossip magazine or something like that. And there was just too much of a responsibility when we decided to get married, stay married, have 7 kids, mom who stays home, and to be able to say, you know what, I need some help, I need some skills, and those skills are going to come from reading nonfiction books, and as many as I can. Right. I think I read, wasn't it? Was it Decision Points, or it was George Bush's President George Bush?
Decision Points by Bush by W.
Didn't he say that he read like 35 biography or 35 books a year?
He had a contest with a friend of his that they were going to see who could read the most books in a year while he was president or governor.
Something like that.
But he was busy, but he still carved out time to read, and he said that was a huge year for growth for him.
Yeah, and it was like 30 to 40 books during the calendar year.
And I wouldn't say that I probably read that many books in a year, but I do read lots and lots and lots of articles and lots of stories and lots of YouTube videos and lots of books on tape. I probably do 10 books on tape a year, and I probably do 1,000, 1,500 YouTube videos.
I go through periods of, I've done it multiple times where I challenge myself to read 100 pages a week. 100 pages a week. Yeah. And when you make a commitment to read 100 pages a week, you'll find yourself, like standing in line at the grocery store. I got to get my pages in, or what, you will find time. I've done it. And it's very interesting because if you choose to go at a pace of like 100 pages a week, then in 3 weeks, you've read 300 pages. So that's a book, basically a book a month. And you could get through 12 during, it depends on how.
15 or 18 books in a year.
It really does depend on who the author is. Like Viktor Frankl took me a little longer than, 3 weeks, even though it's 300 pages because there's very complicated words. But then you read like John Maxwell and you can like cruise through those. So, it's fun. I guess that's all we're trying to say in this episode and in all of our episodes is like success can be super fun. You can make little games of it. You can recognize that there are big decisions that you're going to be making in your life. We've got, our son just proposed to his girlfriend and they're, she said yes. And so, that's a big decision, is to get married. And so that's, we're watching our children start making big major decisions. Joseph's he's made the major decision to get his degree and he's finishing his college and he's making his degree.
Education is one of the ones, like what level of education do you want to have and what do you want to study? Another one is, what's your policy going to be about health? You and I both want to live a long time. We want to be active and everybody wants to live a long time, but do you have a policy? What is your policy for health? Do we have a family policy for health? Our family policy is, you don't drink that much. I don't drink very much. We don't typically smoke unless I'm smoking a cigar. We don't really drink, smoke, or chew or go out with those that do. We try to go high protein, low fat. We want to make sure that we get rest. We were just having a conversation about making sure that we sleep enough, that we rest enough, that we take downtime, that we're away from our phones enough each day so that we can actually fully recharge. Hydration, deep breathing. I go to the chiropractor a couple times a month. I have a stand-up desk. You've got, all your shoes and your Peloton. Yeah, for your bike.
Teresa, thanks.
Having a policy for health, that's a big decision. And then I would say your overall narrative, the philosophy and the narrative that you have as a person, what you're going to believe. Jim Loehr, Loehr, Lair, and Tony Schwartz did some work in a book called Power of Full Engagement. And then Jim Loehr wrote a book called The Power of Story that talked about his lessons learned from the training camp. What's the narrative going to be? Is the narrative all facts that you can handle, good or bad facts, but you can handle all of them? And then are they tied to positive opinions, or do we have stage 4 pancreatic cancer level opinions about things that happened to us because little Johnny's dad, sorry to be picking on Johnny the whole time here, but little Johnny's dad didn't want you to take his spot playing first chair violin. And so little Johnny's dad said, you'll never be good at violin. And all of a sudden somebody's negative opinion about us gets tied to a fact that I did play violin, but I'm not very good. I don't really know why. Because little Johnny's dad said you weren't going to be any good. those types of opinions inside of our narrative can cause major cancerous limiting beliefs, and they need to be surgically removed as soon as possible. That's a policy. And then the last one that I had was travel and self-enrichment. You and I have a policy of travel. We've been all over the world together. We've been all over the United States together. We've taken our kids. We've done road trips that are 6, 7, 8,000 miles. We've done trips to Miami and back in a minivan with 6 kids, which some people would think were crazy, but we had a great time doing that. We rented a motorhome and drove to Rapid City, South Dakota, and saw Mount Rushmore. And then we've also flown and driven. We've been to Israel, Middle East, Asia areas. I've been to Europe. You've been to Europe now a couple times with kids. And that's a policy for us that we grew up traveling and enriching ourselves and seeing how other people live.
Well, and it's experiences, right?
100%.
It's about grabbing life by the horns and going for it. It's about making life experiences and being able to have a deciding pillar in your life of experiences and travel. And, you don't have to go very far to experience great art. If you live within proximity, even 100 miles to a, relatively big city, there's going to be a gallery and they're going to have some form of art or museums. You can have, aquariums and planetariums. And if there's a community college, there's classes. There's these enrichment activities that will very easily and very naturally fall into your major decisions, into those decisions that you're making, those good, solid decisions.
I would just say, don't let circumstances drive you. I've had health scares. You've had health scares. Don't let the major decisions, don't leave anything to chance. Right? Decide, what am I going to do with the money? You and I decided to focus on self-enrichment, education, and travel with our children. That's where we put millions of dollars into those experiences. We want to live in a nice neighborhood. We want to have nice, comfortable automobiles. We want to wear nice clothes, and we want to invest in business. And that's exactly what we've done. We want experiences. We want our children to be happy and comfortable and enjoy all kinds of cool stuff. We want to travel, and we want our kids with us when we travel. And we've also decided to invest in different businesses, and some of those businesses did really well, and some of them didn't do very well. But the policy is still that this is our thing that we do. We're entrepreneurs. We invest in business, and through digital and social media, we're seeing now the opportunity to basically make good on years of dreaming and thinking about how we could create the kind of lifestyle to where we have our cake and eat it too. Right? Yeah. We're creating content. We're helping people doing things that are exciting, I think, in the media, and talking about things that really matter, like a marriage relationship, like a child relationship, like what kind of decisions you make as far as your career. So we've enjoyed being with you guys today. Thanks for
and close. Just don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. You're going to be great. You're going to do great.
The big decisions. If you take care of the big decisions, the little ones typically take care of themselves. So thanks for being with us here on the Jeff Heilman Project. Hope you guys have a great week. This should be shipping on Tuesday on YouTube, which would be the 23rd of January, and the 19th on our audio platforms.
And thank you for liking and subscribing, and we appreciate you.
For her birthday. Have a great week. Thanks. Bye.